Hi everyone, Falcon here. Welcome to another build diary. Time to do lightning warp. Okay, so the too long didn't read is basically that lightning warp is actually a really good main DPS skill now. I think it's mostly just because of the generic buffs they did to it, and also some of the interactions with the infusions. Actually, you can use it quite well. The idea is basically that you can use ball lightning with multiple projectile and slower projectile, and also unleash to basically cast a really large amount of ball lightnings, little orbs that you can use lightning warp on. So you don't need a target that's on low life to actually cast it on anything. And if you pair that also with the unleash weapon skill, you can actually quite easily have ridiculous burst of DPS with ball lightning. In addition to that, it is extremely good at generating infusions, which you can then use for things like triggered comets, firestorms, and for instance, the same ball lightning giving it a fire wall. Fire burning ground. So yeah, overall, I think this is actually scaling pretty damn well. I'm now in level 4, tier 4 to 5 maps. My gear is all under 3 to 4 C. So I think everything combined is like 20, 30 C. And it's doing pretty well. So I think the whole thing that elemental skills are a meme and they don't work, I think it's a little bit overblown. So yeah. Okay, so let's go through the concept itself. I'll just run through it pretty quickly. This is not going to be a very long build diary. I just kind of don't have the time for this because I need to leave to another country tomorrow. So this is a lightning warp chronomancer. So basically, first, very quickly, the history, why, what, how. The whole idea is basically I decided to do play 0.3 and the idea was to do elementalist. Some kind of elementalist. Something that scales elemental skills, ailments, and to be flexible, to be able to do either spells or attacks, depending on one seems more interesting, because even though I didn't play 0.2, I found parry really cool, so I wanted to play a bit with spears. But anyway, so I decided to start with the spells, that's where the tree is, and I was basically exploring everything, because I didn't play the spells before, basically, the elementalist. I just tried literally everything, every single skill, every single combo I could come up with, just to see what works and what doesn't. And the main thing was to try infusions. I was extremely interested in infusions and how those work. So these little things where basically, elemental skills leave some remnants, and if you pick up the remnant, then you get, it's kind of like a power charge, frenzy power, endurance charge, and you can use it as a spender, basically to spend it on skills to empower them in various potentially interesting ways. So I started doing these combos and they were working pretty okay. At some point I discovered that Lightning Bolt was really, really good for leveling. And that's where my first video, I think, came out. Like I did one very short video where I just showed a boss and I was just killing it. I think it was Benedictus, which is really the hardest boss in the game right now. Like, what the fuck? I killed that thing with Lightning Bolt. And the main idea was basically I was waiting until I could get cast on crit. Cast on... ailment, this one, cast on elemental ailments. I wanted to get to this buff, this metagem, because I felt that with infusions, even though they were cool, it was a bit difficult to actually cast the skills. Like, there were a lot of combos that I found were good. You could generate infusions without a lot of problems. However, once you have the infusions, you just literally, you don't have enough like buttons or time to spend everything. Like, I wanted to use like 12 skills at the same time, really to maximize everything, and it just wasn't really working out very well. Like, I need to use less skills. And as I was experimenting with this stuff, and finally, once I got to cast an elemental ailment, which I put on Comet because I wanted to see just, okay, what would happen if I could really try to use these infusions to really like generate a ridiculous amount of ailments, and just spam comments like that. Like, maybe it's a living build again, because I recall people were saying in 0.1 initially this was a thing, like the kind of thing people were doing. What happened was basically at some point there was a bug. So I think this was day 1. I didn't look at the patch notes or anything, but I'm pretty sure it had to be a bug because it patched now. The whole thing where basically if you cast ball lightning and the ball lightning is infused with fire, it leaves a burning ground, and this burning ground was infinitely triggering ignites on bosses or, well, any mobs, and this was actually generating extremely large amounts of energy, and then you could spam a comet, triggered comet, which was really cool. However, this seems already to be fixed. However, in the process of doing that, because I noticed that ball lightning was something I really wanted to keep using, I also wanted to then start using lightning warp because, well, why not, right? If I'm generating lightning ball lightnings, I could just take advantage of the skill because it dealt really good damage and I was using it for clear all the time. And then as I started using it versus bosses. Next thing I know, this is actually way stronger than everything else I have. All the combos, everything just kind of went out the window, and turns out lightning warp is actually the highest DPS I could potentially have. All I should really do is just spam ball lightning and do lightning warps, and life will be very good. And as you can see, like, this crazy stuff that you can do. I have a feeling like this baby just kind of almost ignores our regular cast speed or something. Like, I'm not sure. I didn't really look into anything yet, like how this works exactly, but it's really, really damn strong. The concept is very simple. So basically you take ball lightning, and there are two skills supports you absolutely need. You need unleash, because then you will generate basically multiple lightning warps rather than one ball lightnings. So you get a whole set of them that you could use. And the second one is multi-shot. So you want to fire 3 additional projectiles. The idea is basically when you have these two together, you're generating such a large amount of ball lightnings that you basically have enough things to cast your lightning warp on. As you can see, yeah, this is quite a few casts. By the time you cast them all, then you can just cast another lightning warp, as you saw, ball lightning, as you saw earlier. Prolonged duration is also pretty nice. I think slower projectile would also be a fourth link that would also make quite a bit of sense. I've considered this is probably what I should have already be using a greater one for that. For lightning warp itself, it doesn't actually matter. You could use literally anything. So I use magnified area just for clear, make it easier. Arcane surge because I was having huge mana issues, and this thing is taking all my mana. Lightning penetration, exposure are just two very cheap generic supports that I think they just work, right? If you don't overinvest in resistance penetration, then this becomes a super strong support. And exposure, same if you don't have it elsewhere. Becomes a nice place to get it. Okay. Actually, yeah, this one also, this could be replaced. This could be something completely different, but because I was casting it on this, it kind of makes sense. Another thing, okay, cast on elemental ailment, a comet, and then you just get the generic energy things. However, you saw I wasn't getting to cast the comets all that often now that the whole bug got fixed. However, I still think that if I scale my chance to shock and elemental ailments and everything quite a bit, it should actually be possible to take good advantage of this at some point and actually cast a lot of comets to deal a lot of damage. Orb of Storms is good to have because if you have 2 of them placed down, so it's basically like this, and then this, they will cast together, they will leave behind 2 more infusions, and this is more cast, which is basically potentially more shocks, which again, potentially more triggers. Mana Remnants, just for generic mana, it's good to have. Elemental Weakness, of course, makes sense to have something like that. Unleash is super important, I think. Well, it's not super important. I only started using it the last 2 hours. Before I was doing fine without it, but I was running into many mana issues. Unleash is nice because Unleash basically makes the skill repeat twice, and these repeats then don't cost mana, at least as far as I understand. I think that's the case. Visually, at least to me, it looks like the first 2 are free, which means, well, you will use far less mana if you basically do it as the combo, basically something like this. You cast everything, you place this, unleash, and then you cast this. You get 2 for free. But in total, you use an average 5, which means already 30-40% of the casts don't use mana, which is really helpful for the pool. Because mana is a big issue with this thing. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Firestorm is another thing. So overabundance, yeah, get +2 to limits. Rising Tempest, because it's the only fire skill we use. That makes a lot of sense to have. And execute as just a generic extra damage support. Firestorm is kind of nice. My whole idea was that if I'm generating infusions like this super fast, then I should just basically do something like this. So unleash into Firestorm. And just have these super strong firestorms. This is kind of my main idea. I wanted to have a lot of firestorms, a lot of comets, lightning warp, everything at the same time. Just a complete clusterfuck of element skills to try and nuke something. The firestorm just became kind of minor. It doesn't really do that much damage relative to the lightning warp because the lightning warp is just so damn strong. So that's kind of why. And yeah, it is really strong. Like, look at this. This is 50 to 900 lightning damage at level 19, which is completely stupid. Even if you look at Comet, at level 16, Comet itself only deals around that much, right? Like 4 to 7. Basically, there are very similar damage tiers between the two of them. When Comet has a ridiculously difficult, like it's super hard to cast, right? Like with Comet, you basically need stand still, cast the damn thing, and everything. It's not very good. And Lightning Warp, you're casting a crazy amount of times in sequence. So yeah, it's pretty damn good, I think. Unnerva Knowing is also one that's kind of interesting for electrocution buildup. So basically what you can do is you can cast a Curse, you can cast the Nova, and then you start casting your shit. This way, if you have enough damage, you might even electrocute and stun a boss in one go. At least for rares, this always happens, so sometimes I just put that in as well, as I'm finding a rare, and then I will just one-shot the rare for most cases. Snap is something that is interesting, and I want to play around with it more, but again, it just doesn't seem to make sense because Lightning Warp is so damn freaking powerful. Okay, in terms of tree itself, so this is what I did. So I played Chronomancer. I just went really generic. So I wanted Temporal Rift because this is freaking awesome. I love this skill. This is so good. So many oh shit moments because I am someone who really does just sprint into everything. Like I'm sprinting like 90% of my map playtime. So having Lightning Temporal Rift to just get me out of the shit is super useful. Saved my ass a lot of times. Sands of Time also seems quite nice. This is on average 30% increased cast speed and 30% increased AoE, which I think is just generically really, really strong. It's just a very solid notable. I think afterwards Time Freeze would make sense to have, as would Apex of the Moment. My idea right now is to go for Apex of the Moment as the third one, and then as the fourth one I will probably go Time Freeze. The other two, like something like Inevitable Agony and Rapid Reverse, they're cool, but I don't know, I haven't found much use. Now and again, I don't think it makes much sense because, okay, so we use Unleash, but it's not like something that you would want to basically, you start unleashing, you cast this, and then you unleash in the middle of it. Like, no, that's not really the pattern. And with the generic pattern, it's very important that because Lightning Warp has such a short cast time, 05, Unleash itself doesn't gain a lot of cast time. And because of this, like you can recast it very, very quickly. So it basically works out as a very nice combo where you basically like this, unleash, cast everything, and you're already prepared to already cast it again. So this is a very nice generic combo that you can use. I think it's pretty easy to use. I mean, it's real, even without unleash. So this is just 2 buttons. So it's a, okay, 2-button build, but it's PoE2. We expect to at least use 2 buttons. If you want to maximize your damage completely, you want to place down the Curse. You would want to place down both of the Orbs of Storm. You would want to do Electrocute with the Unnerving Nova or something as a second weapon set, of course, not as the main, primary. And then you, yeah, cast it. And yeah, things are good. That's kind of all you need. So yeah, from the tree perspective itself, this is just generic things. So I took everything like flammability and things like that, like get as much ailment generation as I can, because still, to me, the most interesting thing is the triggers. Like I want to trigger a lot of comets and find a way to do that efficiently. We will see how it goes once it scales, but I feel like it should scale pretty well, actually. Need a lot of energy shield, of course, and a lot of mana because this is difficult to sustain, and we need defensive layers because, again, it's PoE2, you need defenses in this game. And then I started investing into crit slowly. So these are like the first few bits of crit, the next few bits of crit. I don't think I have much yet because I just started, so let's see, where are we at right now? 27% crit chance. And a single crit is now at 1.8, so 2.8x. So okay, it's already doing something, like it's not insignificant, but there's still a lot of scaling to do with crit. Infusions, so yeah, every single node that has infusion in the name I think is worth taking, except these, and I will explain this in a second. So yeah, because infusions are just powerful, I think on the Comet and the Firestorm, you can basically you're using Lightning Warp in a way to generate a lot of infusions for Firestorms and the Comets. But because it deals so much damage by itself, it's kind of like, I don't know, almost unnecessary. But I feel like later into the game, it might actually start mattering quite a lot. Also for leveling, until you can actually pull off these combos well, it's probably also very nice. With infusions, everything relies a little bit on this Elemental Equilibrium. the point is basically that Elemental Equilibrium lets you spam just one type of attack. So for example, Lightning Warp to generate all 3 types of infusions, which will then give you fire infusions, which will then basically allow you to get fire comets and triple infusion firestorms. So again, this is like my ponderings more about like this infusion-based gameplay. I think this is like what's really interesting and I want to push. But the Lightning Warp is just so powerful, I cannot not talk about it. Like it seems like the main thing. But the build itself, I'm trying to build for these ailments and for triggers, for comet triggers. Maybe instead of comet, it might be something else. Maybe even more ball lightnings. That might actually make a lot of sense. Actually, that probably makes the most sense. Actually, yeah, ball lightning as a support. But then again, you can have 2 spells at the same time. So I guess no, that won't work. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it stays as comets. Maybe firestorms. Anyways, I'm getting in the jewels immediately. Started getting like a little bit of ailment effect. I think I had one jewel that was pretty nice that I snagged for like 2x. Was it this one? I think it's this one. Maybe there's another one. Wait, I remember having one more really good jewel somewhere. Okay, I guess it's just this one. So yeah, magnitude, shock effect, energy shield. Yeah, these types of things are pretty damn nice. Yeah, I'm kind of... Oh yeah, this one. Trigger spells deal increased damage also. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. That's kind of what it looks like. I think this is really important. So you can get very cheaply and anoint conservative casting. 15% increased mana cost efficiency is literally 15% lost cost of skills. Like I checked, it's literally what this is, which is super weird that they named it like this. But yeah, this one is cheap. 2 Disgusts are basically 14 exalts, I think, and Ire is free. So this is a pretty cheap one to get. So yeah, that's kind of it with the tree. There's nothing else to talk about really. Yeah, I'm stacking more energy. So meta gems increase energy. I really want to get to this wheel because here you can also get a lot of energy and the trigger refunds. I think there were some other ways also to get energy. If I remember correctly, where was it? I think jewels themselves can also have some energy. Okay, gear-wise, so basically the staff, so I got an Unleashed staff. The idea is basically, okay, get extra damage, increase spell damage, lightning damage, +1 levels. Be very careful with the plus levels, because if you don't have a lot of mana regen, you will just get destroyed. I think mana regen is really important, and I have it on a lot of my gear. So this has mana regen. What else? Actually, almost nothing has mana regen, because I couldn't afford most of it. But yeah, you want to get mana regen in many places as you can. You need to stack it, because otherwise Lightning Warp is just a little bit too hungry. Crit chance you can get off the staff. Yeah, spell damage, extra damage, things like that are pretty damn nice. What else can I say? Yeah, so basically more crit damage, resists, everything like that you can get. You need a little bit of spirit. I think the only meta gems, not meta gems, persistent ones that you need are the mana remnants and the cast an elemental ailment. Like those are the only 2 things you need. I don't think anything else is super necessary. And you can get that by just an amulet. Like 1 amulet is enough, which I think is very nice. I got a body like this, which is kind of nice. Wait, is this actually one of the... No. So yeah, these are kind of everywhere. I did the same thing. Get energy shield, get life, get mana, get resists, and then get mana regeneration or cast speed if I can. That was kind of the priority here. So yeah, this gear is actually cheap. Like I got it all pretty cheaply by just snagging on the market or crafting it myself. And now, what else? What else? I can also show you one cool trick. So I say trick, but so I haven't sold any of these yet, but basically, so look at this. So there's an omen that makes it so that any gear that you basically apply your the bone stuff from Abyss on, it makes it so all 6 mods will basically become Abyss mods. All I did was I went on the store and I bought the most highest item level items I could find. So this was, for example, okay, item level 79, and this was 84. I was looking for 84 ones as well, because I think Spellslinger is another option, which could be very interesting. So I really want to do something with Spellslinger. So I started basically crafting on wands with Spellslinger, just to see basically what I could do. And like I landed on this wand immediately. This was the very first wand, which is kind of interesting. So the thing is, these Abyss mods are really, really strong. Like, what the fuck? +4 levels 26% cast speed. Like these are really, really high tier mods that you can just get almost deterministically because you get 3 attempts. You also have one omen, which you can apply during the crafting process when like you're revealing the mods, where basically you get 2 attempts. So then you get basically 6 attempts at every single mod, which is super massive. I think this was a generic one. I don't think I had any other ones that are crafted like this. Oh yeah, this one as well. This one also came out pretty nice. This is kind of cool. I don't know, I'm showing it here. I was hoping to get ahead of the economy with these things and just start crafting these at bulk, because these are only like, as of this writing, they're like 6 exalts each or 6 chaos each, the omens, to basically get the 6 mods, which I think is way too cheap. It should immediately be like over 20, I think, because these things are, they do roll really good mods, like really easily. So I think this is a cool way to generically just quickly get some gear that would be good enough for this type of spell. I also got this one. This is shit. Yeah, I just have it for the Nova itself. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about this. So I think it's kind of interesting. I think in general with the elemental spells, people are kind of overblowing it. Even if we ignore the Lightning Warp tech, I think this stuff is pretty strong actually. The fact that Lightning Bolt is super OP is also a little bit annoying to me. This just shows to me that they kind of overbuff some of these spells, which is kind of funny to hear, right? But yeah, Lightning Bolt especially is really, really overbuffed. Lightning Warp is overbuffed, which makes it that the other spells don't feel as good to use. However, I think in the late game, once you're applying a lot of ailments and you use something like Lightning Warp just to generate infusions, most of these kills are quite nice. Snap itself also, like, it deals a lot of damage. Once you have like triple infusions on this, like this is what, let's see, 400, 5, 6, 7, 800. So this is an average, okay, not 800, but average 600 damage. So similar to the Lightning Warp itself, and generates even more infusions and 50% more damage. So yeah, I think many of them can be used quite well, but I think a lot of them you want to trigger, for which, yeah, you need to kind of scale a little bit. So you need to scale these ailment chances and everything like that. But until you get to that point, Lightning Warp seems very nice. And in general, this is really fun. Like, I find when mapping, using that skill really fun, and versus bosses is really fun, because sometimes you get these really nice patterns where just like you just shrunk it completely, like 30-40% of its HP bar. I think it should scale pretty well into mid game at least. I don't know about end game, so I am optimistic because you can just go crit and it scales pretty well with cast speed, I think. I guess this is the only problem where maybe you might run into an issue in that you cast these lightning balls and then you start chasing them, right? And this is like, how many of them do we have here? Like, I think it was like 7 or something. So you can only, so if your cast speed goes like something stupid, like, I don't know, plus 7 per second, I guess this combo becomes very short. But I mean, then the point would be you do this to generate infusions, and then with the infusions you do crazy shit. But anyways, overall, combo is very nice. Even though I posted this build diary entry, I will not actually be able to play for the next 8 days at all. I'm leaving to a conference in another country. Once I'm back, I will play though. I think the league is pretty fun. Granted, I think it's also good that I'm leaving right now, because one thing is that in maps where the pack size starts increasing, Abyss currently is, I think, bugged, where basically it has huge performance issues. Like, essentially, I have so many maps where the map basically gets bricked, because once I walk up to the abyssal depths, like the actual like crevices, if there's enough mob pack, monster pack size, I basically drop to like under 5 FPS. Which is completely stupid. Like, there's specific mobs, some few specific mobs in there that if they spawn and there's a lot of them, they completely crash your frame rate, which is really, really unfun. And this happens way too often. I would say like once every 4 to 5 maps I'm getting this right now. So yeah, I think it's worth waiting a little bit with some of this shit. Just take it slow. Campaign itself is pretty nice. I hate Benedict. I think it's ridiculous that Benedict is by far the hardest boss in the freaking game right now. Wait, let me... Which one I'm talking about here? So it's the one from one of the videos I posted. I think it was where was it? Somewhere right here. Soldier confinement. No, abandoned prison. This one is also abandoned prison boss. Is also completely fucked up. It deals way too much damage. Like, what the hell? It's super hard. I think it was excavation. Yeah, excavation boss, Benedictus. So this was the penultimate boss of the act before you fight the final boss, which is actually a super easy one. But Benedict is super freaking hard. I'm just shocked. It's like Cyrus on steroids. Like, why is a map boss that's not even, it's not even the final act boss, and it's so much more complicated and so much more rippy than all the other ones. It's crazy. Anyway, so those are the first few like small thoughts I have on the league itself and the build itself. I will post another update probably in like 2 weeks. So I'll play for once I'm back, I'll play for a week with this build, start pushing it towards endgame maps, see what I can do, and then I'll post something else on it. So yeah, good luck, have fun.